praises, all honor, all glory be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutation to all the Akim doing and pushing this word in sincerity and truth worldwide, and a sincere shalom to the elect. I really want to get into this lesson here because this is very, very, very important, okay? You have this brother right here, okay? You see his screen page, and when you go to his community post, you'll see you have to go down a couple pages, maybe like a day or two ago, okay? And it's about Manischewitz. Let me slack you. Let's get the name right here.
Manischewitz.
Oops, Slovakia.
Manischewitz.
Manischewitz. Come on. So you heard her. Let's take that off. Manischewitz, okay? Dealing with the wine, right? So I told, there was this is what he had posted, okay? So yeah, like 2-3 days ago, or 4 days ago. Use grape juice, that right there off the bat, okay? Use grape juice this Passover because red wine is defiled with yeast because of this devil. Okay, great. We know things in this world is defiled because of this devil, okay? And then I responded to the individual and I told him, the wine that we drink, let me get the thing right here. I said, that's not correct. The wine we drink at Passover doesn't contain yeast, okay? Careful when it comes to that AI shit, all right? And it's true. When it comes to that AI shit, be very cautious, man. When it comes to answering a man or anybody out there, we dig. We go deep. We don't, just type it in. And this is what you did. You just typed it in on the, Google instead of doing a thorough, deep search, right? You just typed it in on the Google and just put it up there. You can't be doing that type of stuff, okay? If you feel your opinion that you want to drink grape juice, well, you go drink the grape juice, okay? But don't be putting it out there for others to go off. That's what you're causing other people to do. You're causing other Akim to err, okay? You're causing people who are young in the truth to err, to go off, okay? You're telling them basically on the Passover that they don't got to drink the wine. What next? There's yeast on the lamb. They don't got to eat the lamb too? Because when you go into studies about lamb, and if there's yeast on lamb, yes, there is. It's on their coat. It's on their coat, their fleece. When they're doing separation, whatnot, the skin and whatnot, it gets on the meat. And even at that, when you go put the meat inside of the fridge at a cool temperature, yeast is in the atmosphere. It's in the air. So what are you talking about? But there's a way to deal with that. When you put it with the fire burns it off. So now that yeast was on that lamb, do you say, well, you know what? I'm not using this for Passover because yeast was on it. It's the very same thing with this Slovakia. Let's go back again. Let me pronounce it again. Manischewitz. Slovakia. Manischewitz. Okay? With the Manischewitz, there's no yeast in it. It's pulled out. Okay? In order to get alcohol, yeast must be present. Alright? We're going to go into all of that. We're going to go into the whole thing. Okay? So he comes back and he says, spread the news. Let us know what kind of wine you drink so we'll know what to buy. First of all, if you're in the know, you in the know already. You already know what wine to buy on Passover, okay? This is why I asked him at way down on the bottom, do you check in with local GMS camps? Are you a part of GMS? Do you check in with the brothers? Because you would know what wine to obtain. This wouldn't be a problem onto you, okay? You know, if you're like 3 years, 4 years in the truth, you shouldn't be making these type of claims. Run it by order. Run it by somebody who's over you, okay? Instead of yapping and making these type of, statements, and you still have it up there after I prove the fact to you that, hey, what you're saying is wrong, first of all, and you don't know what you're talking about. You need to remove it because you're causing schism and you're causing other people to err, okay? If you don't understand that after this video that I put up, well, I know something's up with you, and we're gonna watch you. We're gonna scope you, okay? Because after I make this video and it makes it very fucking clear what's going on, all right? Because this type of action right here gets me heated, man. You're putting something up there with no facts. With no facts at all, okay? All you did was run to a computer, type it in for a second or two, and then put it up there. This is why our apostle elders are over us. You think our apostle elders are going to tell us, go to the wine store and get some yeast and drink it on Passover? This is where faith comes in. Because as a young man coming into this truth, and when I was told, yo, that's the wine you obtain and drink, I didn't question it in the sense like, oh man, these guys trying to make me. No. I went with it in faith, and guess what? Latter time, come to find out, no, there is no yeast in it. Okay? And we're going to go through that in detail. Complete detail. And like I said, you're coming in a rebellious spirit, okay? You're coming in a rebellious spirit. 1 Samuel and 23, 15 and 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft and stubbornness, okay? Let's go into rebellion. Should say, Salakia. Right there, rebellion. Rebellious, okay? Bitter, okay? That's how you're acting. Bitter. Because I showed it to you. Told you go look it up for your damn self. You didn't want to listen, right? You wanted to go on. And even more so when I proved it to you, you wanted to put up another, in biblical times, how wine was made. The wine had yeast in it, okay? The wine had yeast in it from back then. Where are you trying to go with this? So here it is, you put up Galatians, a little leaven lump in the whole lump. You think you're funny. Look, man, when I answer somebody, I answer them direct. I don't play this piggyback hide and go seek stuff. Because that's all you were doing when you putting up your post. Instead of directly answer me like a man after I had given you this, you ran from it. Do you check in with local GMS camps? Are you a part of GMS? Yes or no? That's question number 1, okay? Secondly, let's go here again. I told them, this wine that we grabbed for Passover, right? And there's another one, and it's called Mogen David, or Mogen David, okay? Spread the news. So that I said, hey, it's kind of funny. Like, you coming at me kind of sideways, brother. Okay? All the brothers know this already. For years, we have been drinking this or the other kind. And there's another one too. There's like 3 different kinds, all right? On Passover. And check out making wine with no yeast. Okay? With outside. When I say that, I mean outside source. Because we're going to get into it, on the grapes itself, there's wild yeast. And our Passover drinks, the drinks that we drink on Passover, the wine, it is of one grape. I know I'll go through it. I'll show you. That is made using natural fermentation. Okay, the yeast from the skins. Okay, we're gonna go into it. Okay, I ask you this: what have you been drinking on previous Passovers, do you check in with GMS, with local GMS camps? Not an answer, okay? Not an answer to none of those. What did you drink on the Passover? And number one, are you a part of GMS or do you check in with the camps? All right? And this, you see, if you're a part of GMS, and if you had been checking in with the camps, then you would know already. So, going back, right here, this is what I told you. It is not possible to make red wine without yeast, natural yeast. Natural ferment can produce unique flavor, whatever. So, here it is what he came back after I told him, right? So, here's another one that he put up because I told him. I think this was after I had responded to him here. Okay, does, Manischewitz, Salakia, let me bring it back up. Manischewitz, okay? This is what he put up. Does Manischewitz wine have yeast? What do you do? What you do for Passover? I'm drinking grape juice. Well, we're going to get into that grape juice in a second since you think you're so smart with that. All right? So it says kosher for Passover wines bear the additional responsibility of being created using yeast from a source other than bread mold. And the source that they're using it from is fruits from the grape itself. All right? And there's wild yeast. There's commercial yeast. And then there's also something called 7-1B, which is also a natural yeast. We're going to get into that too. And we're going to actually get into the pore size, which is 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 10 microns, okay? We're going to get into all of that. And we're going to get into the filters that they use to filter out these filter membranes, to filter out the fungi, the yeast. That's what it is. Yeast is a fungus, okay? And the difference between this yeast that we're doing what we're doing with is that there's grain that they can use, but they don't use it for kosher, okay? The ones that they will use for kosher is grapes and the yeast from those grapes, okay? So you're drinking grape juice for Passover? All right. Well, you should go and read the scriptures, what the Lord said when he was talking about henceforth I will not drink this cup, right? So the wine must contain only kosher ingredients, including yeast and finishing agents. We'll go into finishing agents too. You have fish bladder, right, which is innocent glass or something like that. You got bone marrow, blood bone marrow, okay, which can come from beef or pork. You got guillotine, whatever, which we know comes from pork. All right. You also have well, we'll go into it. Let me see off the top of my head if I can remember the other one. Oh, egg whites, Salakia, egg whites. And you also have crustaceans, all right? Meaning like the exoskeletons of shrimp and all those other things. But that's usually used for white wines, all right? So those are going into the finishing agents, all right? Let's get into here. There's no such thing as a wine that's never been touched by yeast. Now remember that, eh? Because he put up how was yeast made in biblical times. Just remember that, all right? So I came back and I told him, Shalom Ak, at the bottom here. Yes, yeast can be found even on lamb, what I was speaking about before, okay? Yes, yeast can be found even on lamb. Does grape juice have any yeast in it? Look it up. And the answer is yes. Yes, grape juice can contain yeast, which can cause it to ferment. But you know what happens? They put potassium sulfate or something like that in it to stop it from fermenting. So that's in your Welch's juice. You'll see sulfates on there and whatnot. That's what they're going into. So your Welch's grapes that you go get, there's yeast in there. And during Passover week, here it is, you drinking that. And fruit salad and fruit juice. We're going to go into this whole thing, okay? Because this is how you educate people. This is how you give edification to the flock. This is how you feed the flock. You don't just slap something up there and mislead the people. You're misguiding people. You're causing them to error. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Take down your post. Do your apology. Because you need to apologize for that action, brother. So anyways, going back into this, does grape juice have any yeast in it? Look it up. And the answer is yes. Grape juice can contain yeast. And we're going to go into the levels too, which can cause it to ferment. Yeast can be present on grapes themselves, or it can be picked up from the air or other surfaces. Okay? Now this is the funny thing. Let's go into yayan in the scriptures, wine. What does it say here? H3196. Go do it for your damn self. Salakia, go do it for yourself. Okay? Yayan, Strong's definition. Okay? What does it go down? Fermentation. Fermentation. And yes, yeast is always present at fermentation. Did you hear me? We'll read about that too. So anyways, and I put in an addition at the bottom, and Manischewitz wine bear the additional responsibility of being created by using yeast from a source other than bread mold, what I was saying before, such as cane sugar. Okay? So they'll do corn syrup and they'll do cane sugar. Remember, keep that in mind too, because the cane sugar is for Passover. The corn syrup one is in the regular ones, okay? So going back to your grape juice that you want to drink on Passover, you want to be smart with it, right? Okay, yes, grape juice can contain yeast. Bottom line, boom, right there. Grape juice can contain yeast that is naturally present on the grapes or picked from the environment. Okay, and we're going to go into how it gets into the juice. The amount of yeast in the grape juice depends on how much yeast is added. However, yeast reproduce quickly, so little more or less than this amount won't be a problem. Okay, so let's go back into this. Highlighted everything here. All right, so you get the understanding. You can pause these things. You can read it for yourself. All right, because I'm not BSing. Okay, when you're going to study something, you gotta fucking study. You don't just go for it for 2 seconds and go, yep, I'm right, you're wrong. And that's the spirit that you're coming in. I'm right, you're wrong. You're coming in a bitter, resentful type spirit. Remember, what does the scripture say? Rebellion is what? As a sin of witchcraft. Let me go back into that stubbornness. Dull. You're being dull. Okay? If you're so wise, why wouldn't you pick up on this? You see, there's order to things, okay? And usually guys who are not in there, just out there doing their own thing, let me say it like that. Usually guys like that, they have no order, okay? And when people put them in check, they get resentful and bitter, okay? And that's what I'm seeing here, brother. The percentage of yeast in fruit juice varies depending on the type of fruit juice and the yeast species presence, because you have different species, okay? Remember this one here called Saccharomyces, okay? Let's just call it SC, okay? That one there, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about, like I said, 71B yeast, okay? Which is also natural. A common yeast in fruit juice concentrates. You can pause this and read this all for yourself. This goes into the different variants of yeast, okay? Fungus. So you can see this. I'm not making this up. This is the percentage that of yeast in orange juice, fruit juice and stuff like that. And now, and hey, Tawada for doing this, because now we know even more, okay? Now we know even more. And the even more that we know is that, you know, we out here, you know, finding out these things. And when we're finding out these things, it's bringing more light. It's bringing more edification to us. So we know, hey, the brother KDZ said, yo, remember on Passover, careful with what you're eating. Well, we already know that, but careful, look. Orange juice has this, fruit juice has this, grape juice has this, right? This is what this is for, okay? So if you feel offended, all right? Open rebuke is better than any secret love, okay? And this is the love that I'm showing to you, brother. And I'm teaching the younger brothers who may have seen your post, okay? Like I said, take that post down. If you don't want to take it down, well, us brothers will realize this guy is stubborn and rebellious, because KDC done proved the fact. And our apostle elders way before me done proved the fact. Anyways, yeast are found in fruit juices, and fruit salads. What more do you need, man? As you can see right here, the yeast, the little white stuff, the dark stuff is the grapes. Like that black stuff is grape, and the white powdery mildew is the, you know, as you can see right here, the dark stuff is the grape, and the white fuzz is the thing, the yeast. The yeast on skinned grape, primarily SC, appears as a thin white layer or waxy coating called bloom. Remember that name too as well. Okay, as a subtle white powdery film. Okay, not always noticeable. Tells you yeast is a critical, especially this yeast, mostly SC, the yeast crucial for making alcohol. This yeast naturally occurs in the environment and settles on the grape. Remember that too. Okay, it naturally occurs. Wild yeast gets into grape juice naturally. Remember bloom, what we just read there? Wild yeast picked up in the air and environment. So when the grapes are crushed to make juice, these yeast are released, talking about the different variants, into the liquid and can be fermented, processed without any added yeast, okay? So you don't need to add yeast when you got some wild yeast in there, okay? But if you add yeast in, it will speed it up, all right? Keep that in mind too. Natural occurrence, airborne yeast, winery environments. Read this for yourself, okay? And now we go into what he was saying. Manischewitz is, oh, it got yeast in it, don't drink that. Okay, all right. You think you know everything, right? You're playing games, brother. You're playing games. Like I said, take down that post. You're causing younger ones that are coming into the truth to go off in error. Now, I'm going to show you something. This is for Passover. This is for Passover. This is for Passover. The water, the brother Kwasha. I like this one here, the blackberry. I read up on that too. That good. This is the other brand, Mogen David. Okay, and this is also cleaned, filtered from any yeast, just like the Manischewitz. This is for Passover. This is for Passover. This is for Passover. That's not for Passover. Hold up. Didn't I just show this in the beginning right here? All right, we'll talk about that. This is not for Passover, and this is not for Passover. Let's talk about something real quick. The U inside the circle. Pause this and read it for yourself. Okay. The P, the K, remember that too. The K on the side of the label. The P also too. Okay, on the side of the label. Kosher certificate symbols help customers identify kosher products. Okay. The P on the side of a label indicates the wine is kosher for Passover. Remember these things. There it is. There's the K, the triangle symbol. All right. Now let's go back to what I was talking about here. To the naked eye, you don't know what the hell's going on, but look right here. Use on Passover. The circle and the U. Use circle on Passover. The P is simple. Okay? This guy talking about. We'll get into why you can use this on Passover and why you can't use the other ones on Passover. Oh, use for Passover. You see the K down at the bottom? For Passover. It even says it right on the bottom. For Passover, right there. Kosher for Passover. There's the K in the triangle, right? And once again, the water, brother. What does it say right here? Kosher for Passover. You see the K in the triangle? I'm not lying. I got no time to lie. Okay? K in the triangle, kosher for Passover. Let's speed this up. What does it say right here? You only. Okay? A you only. Why? Because this wine right here, these wines have been filtered. And this wine here is what you refer to as racking. Keep that also too in mind. I hope you're writing down whatever I'm saying. Keep that also too in mind. It's called a technique called racking. Okay, where all the lees, remember that word too, falls to the bottom. This is the yeast and the byproducts inside the wine that falls to the bottom of the wine bottle. Okay, it's a technique called racking. All right. So once again, what does it say? Kosher, not for Passover use. I wonder why. It's kosher, but how come it's not for Passover use? Well, remember I told you that cane sugar is used for the ones for Passover, and corn syrup is used. Okay. So here we go again. Kosher, not for Passover use. And you see the U in the corner. I hope you brothers are listening on, and I hope you brothers share this video, please, because I'm going to upload this video again just before Passover and on the Passover, okay? Because we can't have individuals doing this. You're causing others to error and go off, man. So we already went through, pause it, read it. We already went through what these symbols mean, okay? So let's go through something else. I don't want to make this video too long, but all this has to be discussed, all of it, because all these guys are doing is you're spreading false information, brother. Yes, yeast is removed from Manischewitz wine during fermentation process. After fermentation, wine is filtered to remove yeast and other sediment. Remember racking, what I told you, the sediments that's in it. Filtration process uses a filter membrane. Now this goes deep. I have all this equipment in my house too, most of it, with small pores to trap yeast cells. The filter wine is then bottled. Manischewitz wine is kosher. Concord grape wine. Okay, Concord grape wine. Remember that. Yes, Manischewitz wine is made using what? Wild yeast. Did we not talk about what wild yeast is? Commercial yeast, natural yeast. Did we not talk about that? Yeah, we did talk about that. Which is, and we're going to go into it more, which is yeast that occurs naturally on grapes. Pause this all you want. In the vineyard and in the ear. Wild yeast, read it for yourself. Manischewitz wine is a kosher Concord grape wine that is made using wild yeast. Okay? So, read it and weep. Yeast is removed from wine like Manischewitz through filtration and other methods. Remember when I said one is for Passover and the next one? One might use animal derivative such as the egg white and the insulin, the fish bladder. Okay, they're not going to use the gear or whatever, the pork, and they're not going to use the exoskeleton for this one, because this one, the one that we use for Passover, is using a stone filter. It's like a stone Bushinera funnel, and it goes down to micros. Okay, we're going to get into that too, like I said. And it, you put your juice, whatever inside, and it pulls it. You attach your ear pump. I got all of that equipment. I know what I'm talking about here. Distillation, I know all about that. Okay, and you put your ear, it sucks out, it sucks down the oil, it goes into the next vat, and the fats is left on top of the stone. Bushinera funnel. Okay. Pressure filtration. Yes, I could use this one too. A pump stops and starts to maintain pressure in a air dome, which forces yeast solids through a filter. Okay. Other methods: low temperature, and when you lower the temperature, it can inactivate the yeast. Fortification by adding brandy and spirits kills yeast cells. You're hearing this. Potassium sorbate. Remember I told you about this. This is the stuff that they add to grape juice to stop it from fermenting, Because why? Natural yeast is in it. From crushing the grapes, pulp, all that, they separate it, and it's inside the flipping juice. Adding potassium sorbate after fermentation stops yeast from fermenting any added sugar. So you understand that, okay? Manischewitz is a kosher wine made from Concord grapes and sugar. Why won't you understand this, bro? Because you didn't take the time and effort, okay? Examine yourself, bro. Examine yourself, all right? I'm not saying this like, I gotta wave in your face, but that 3 times, bro, you've been told, man. You've been freaking told, man. Anyways, going back into this, yes, Mogen David wine is filtered to remove yeast before bottling, okay? After fermentation, wine is cloudy, full of yeast sediments. To prepare bottling, wine is filtered, remove yeast and bacteria. Most of the yeast cells die. Remember the word lees, or are removed during fermentation, okay? Went to the company. You could go there your damn self and check it out. Vegan friendly. There's the company. There's all the information. Let's go here down at the bottom. Ingredients: grapes, yeast. What yeast is that? Remember I mentioned something called 71B. Okay, 71B, which is a natural yeast. It's isolated from one of the many different. I think it could be from the SC. It's separated from that one, isolated, okay? Because the SC itself is isolated. But anyways, Finnin clarification agents removed. You see that, right? Okay? They're removed. The Finnin agents is removed. And remember I told you what the Finnin agents are. We're going to go into that just now. Okay? You got the fish bladder. You got the fish bladder. So on and so forth. All right, let's just go into it. Yes, yeast is removed from wine during the filtration or fermentation process and before bottling. This includes Mogen David wine, which is made from fermented fruit. Okay? Keep that in mind. And I want you to pause this and read for yourself. After fermentation, wine is filtered to remove yeast and particles of bacteria. I think I just read this. And the remaining yeast is removed during filtration. Okay? Come on, man. Yes, Manischewitz wine is made using wild yeast. Wild yeast is naturally present on grapes and in surrounding environments. Manischewitz wine, a kosher Concord grape wine made using what? Wild yeast. Let's go down to the process. Pause it and look at it yourself. The process of making Manischewitz wine includes crushing, separating the juice from the pulp. We'll go into that. Fermentation, the yeast that's already in it, the natural yeast on its skin. The yeast eats all the sugar and in juice. This is why they sweeten it. This is why they add lots of sugar, okay? And 71B, which is a natural isolated yeast, all right? Sugar is added to sweeten the wine, all right? Manischewitz wine is made by fermenting Concord grapes, adding sugar and bottling. You understand that, okay? Crushing the grapes to separate the juice from the pulp. Fermentation, stainless steel tanks, 60 Fahrenheit, sweetened, bottled. You already see. Now this is the part I want here. Corn syrup is used in regular Manischewitz wine, but cane sugar is used in kosher for Passover version. Okay, let's go in this. Yes, wild yeast can be used to make kosher wines. Kosher wine is made using ingredients and under supervision of a rabbi. Okay, grapes contain natural yeast that converts juice sugars into alcohol. This process is called fermentation. And yes, during the fermentation process, what I tell you, on the grapes themselves, this is why I said you don't need outside yeast, commercial yeast. You could, right now, anybody, pick it up, go get some berries, go get one single thing, don't mix them all together. Wine of one grape, yayan, fermentation. Go get it, put in something, crush it up, stir it around every day, and you take it to somebody and test it, and they'll be like, yeah, this. Oh yeah, don't forget to add the sugar. You could do it with Welch's, peach, whatever, doesn't matter. Pour it in there, add your sugar, add your commercial yeast, and bada boom, bada bing. You could even wash grapes. Take the water after that you wash the grapes in, take some flour, and guess what's gonna happen? Anyways, let's go back into this. Passover wines. For Passover, only wine or natural yeast can be used to ferment wine. Grain yeast is not allowed. Remember what I was telling you, the mold on bread? Okay. Kosher wine must be made with kosher ingredients, including finning agents. Let's go into the finning agents. Okay. Down at the bottom here, other finning agents used in winemaking: egg whites, pork, insulin glass, swim bladder, right? And they also got bone marrow, blood, bone marrow. We'll go into that too. And look here, crustaceans, shellfish, like shrimp and crab. This is how white wine is filtered, okay, to strip it from its color and whatnot. And you have some red wines that are also filtered using this way, okay? No, Manischewitz wine is not filtered through shellfish, but some wines are filtered using animal-derived finning agents. Manischewitz wine is not vegan friendly because it is not made without animal byproduct. Now remember, the kosher one for Passover has to be. Now remember what I was telling you about racking, okay? The yeast is left inside. And also too, when they do a semi, because the infiltration system, you have different stages. Because obviously when you get the Manischewitz, there's the one not for Passover, there's not anything in the bottom, no sediments. So how did they fin that out? How did they get that out? Either by the bladder or the egg white, okay? Or another form of filtration, okay? So no, Manischewitz wine is not filtered through shellfish. So you see, I'm covering a large thing. This is how you feed. This is how you feed the you know, the lambs. All right. So going back into this, yeast cells are typically 3. Remember I showed you this, 3 to 4. SC 4 to 5. All right. Pause this. Read about it. What's going on here is a single cell fungal microorganism. Microorganism is needed, the yeast, as a catalyst in making wine, isolated from the skin of grapes, okay? And notice down here it says 5 to 10, all right? Microns, okay? UM. Yes, levanin B1, levanin 71B, okay? Yeast is a natural yeast strain that was isolated. You can read the rest, all right? And that also, because I read in the Manischewitz, not for Passover, they use that too. So remember the one that says U circle without the P? That has this type of yeast in it too as well. Aha, but you guys, you know. But anyways, this yeast is natural, and this yeast comes from this yeast right here. Yeast says this goes in. You can pause this to read it for yourself, okay? Because it has a low tolerance, right? Because you see 14%. Filters used to remove yeast from wines are typically 0.45 microns or smaller, okay? And pore size of filter determines how tightly the filter is and what microbes is removed. Membrane filters, this is what we were dealing with. Remember this. These filters are most common in filters used for wine. They're absolute fitters, meaning they remove all particles larger than pore size. Why is this important? Because it removes the yeast. There's no more yeast. Remember I showed you what the yeast sizes are. Okay, 3 to 4, 5 to 4, which this one is critical in making wine, so they're not using the other ones. Okay, 4 to 5, 5 to 10. Okay, so basically from 4 to 10, you might as well say. All right. And what was this? What does this filter pick up? You can't get through there, first of all. 4.5, you can read this for yourself. Industrial standard for sterilization removes all yeast and bacteria. Okay, multi-stage, 1 micron, and then you got and they won't even pass through 1 micron. All right, 0.65 micron. That's multiple filtrations too. It's called a depth filter. No particles that are 3 to 4, this is how I prove it to you, in size can pass through 0.4 micron. It can't even go through a 1 micron, okay? Meaning particles like 3 to 4, and I said it was from 4 to 10, would be caught in the filter and not pass through. So what does this mean for our wine? Our wine is safe to drink, okay? Pore size, preventing larger particles from passing through. Applications, reservoir filters often in laboratory setting remove larger bacteria, yeast cells, and visible debris from solution. Okay? I hope you guys are keeping up. All right? No, not all wine is filtered from yeast. This is what I was telling you. Here it is, unfiltered and filtered. Most commercial wines are filtered to remove yeast cells. The filtration process can use membrane cartridges or depth filters. Remember I mentioned that. To remove yeast and other particles. Unfiltered wine. Remember I told you about racking? This allows, through gravity for the yeast and the other things to settle naturally. This process is called racking, okay? The sediments to the bottom of the glass, okay? Lees, this is what racking, what you get at the bottom of the glass. The dead cells of yeast and the other particles that are settled at the bottom of wine vessels that are fermenting. Byproduct of, so you got gross lees and fine lees. Read it for yourself. Big debris, stems, skins, small particles like yeast and whatever may have fell in there, okay, that you can't see with the naked eye. Yes, wine in biblical times, because he put this up, right? How did they make wine in biblical times? Okay, yes, wine in biblical times was made using yeast that occurred naturally on grapes. Didn't this say this about the Manischewitz? Didn't this say this about the Manischewitz? Anyways, wine in biblical times made natural fermentation process uses yeast from the grape skin and the ear. So yes, yeast was added in there. What are you trying, my youth? Yes, when fermentation happens, yeast is almost always present. It is a primary microorganism. Remember we read about that? Converting sugars, okay, roll of yeast acts as a catalyst. Go look that word up. Common yeast species, SC. Hey, come on, man. Pause it and read it for yourself. It all makes sense. So how they drink their wine on the Passover if there was lees in there? They didn't have no big filtration system and whatnot. Well, let's see what it says right here. The yeast settles at the bottom of the juice, can be found, and the juice can be skimmed off the top. So the leaves would go to the bottom, and you wouldn't stir it all up like an idiot. You dip one of their little things into it, and you just skim it off the top. Skim it. And you run it through cheesecloth again, Anyway, so let's get into this real quick, okay? Because you, sir, you're being, rebellious, man, okay? And I know in this time we can't do everything perfect. Yeah, sure, Esau's an asshole. He be poisoning everything. This is why we got to pray over our food. And we can't keep the laws to the best. We can't keep the laws 100%. We got to keep it to the best of our ability. Ephesians 2:8. For by grace ye are saved through faith. For by grace you're saved through faith. Okay? For by grace you're saved through faith. Right now, the door of grace is opened up onto us, right? And we got to follow this by faith. So we know that we can't keep the, laws 100%, but we must do what? Rehearse the righteous acts. Salakia. Judges 5:11. They that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the place of drawing waters, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh. Okay? James chapter 2:10. No, we can't keep, but we do it to the best of our ability. Slack, yeah, before I got cut off there. So we're gonna go into the word yayon, okay, wine, which basically you could look it up yourself. I already went into it. H 3596, if I'm not mistaken. Fermentation, okay. Now, what happens when fermentation happens? I asked the question before. I said, "Is yeast?" Yes, yeast. Yes, when fermentation happens, yeast is almost always present. Okay, so when you're going into yayon itself, it's showing you that there is yeast in it. Yeast was used to create wine. It's a catalyst. Okay, so racking we went into lees. You know, the stuff at the bottom. You know, like the wine skins and the yeast, right? Racking. You know, we already went into that. It makes all the debris drop to the bottom. You know, dying yeast and whatnot. And this, like I said, lamb has yeast on it if kept refrigerated at certain temperatures. Okay, now how do you get past that? You burn it. Okay, when you put it into the oven, I think it's above 105. That starts to kill off any yeast that's on your lamb. Okay, lab yeast and wild yeast. So commercial yeast, okay, versus the wild yeast. The Manischewitz wine that we're drinking is not lab yeast. I went through what 771B is, and it's a natural yeast, naturally occurring yeast. Okay, so you know, at the end of the year, at the end of the week, if you don't get this after this, then something is seriously going on with you, brother. Like I have to say, you're honestly being rebellious. Okay, and you know you should have known this, man. Acts chapter 7. This is why the apostle others say we don't want no knuckle dragging niggas around us, man. You know, I went to your page. I see, you know, you got videos up here and there, right? You go into some lessons with this. You go into some lessons with that. So how come you couldn't figure this out? You know, this is very irksome, man. You know, and Salakia for, you know, getting heated like that. But if you're a man of sincerity, and I see in a sense that you're trying to be sincere, right? But don't be sincere. Don't be sincerely a jerk, man. Now, when I point this out to you and I showed you to this, you should say, "Oh shit, the brother, right? Let me go check this out." Or even, "Oh, okay, let me go check this out." You know, that's what we do around here. That no knuckle dragging niggas around here, man. No, monkeys and parrots, man. So, anyways, these were more noble. Acts 17:11. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. And that's what we do. We be in the scriptures, and not just the scriptures. Going into history of the world, going into how things work and operate. Okay. When it pertains to the scriptures and we got to figure out this and we got to figure out that, hey, strap on your boots, man, and get to working, okay? Because what? We got to answer these questions, man. As a matter of fact, 1 Peter 3:15. But sanctify the Lord God in your heart, your mind, in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. I already had some studies on wine and alcohol before, but the water, brother, you turned me into a wine chemist overnight. All right. But anyways, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts and your mind, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is within you. Meekness, reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Okay? So right now I'm giving you your admonishment, your warning. Take down that thing, okay? And through this process, through this video here, if you still, at the end of the day, keep that thing up and still say, yeah, I'm drinking, well, we know that, you know, you're being a rebellious individual, man. You know, the scripture said to mark them, scopeo. And that's, hey, brother, be careful, man. Be careful, okay? Because like I said, you causing other people to err, man. 2 Timothy chapter 2:15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that he need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, okay? So you gotta study, brother. You gotta, when you make a statement like that or you put something up like that, you gotta study. You can't just make a statement like that. Oh, this is that and that is that. You know, you have to study. You can't just make a bold-faced statement like that. Okay? You have to you have to show the individuals what you're talking about. But you're not even, you know, you just slap that up there, AI. That's why I said be careful with